Have you ever smiled so no one could see the war inside you? Have you ever laughed while your heart quietly fell apart? People believe a smile is proof that everything is fine, but sometimes it's just the strongest mask a broken soul can wear. The deepest pain doesn't always cry. It hides behind calm eyes, silent words, and a face that refuses to give up. Every betrayal, every lonely night, every scar teaches one painful truth. The world notices your success, but it rarely sees your suffering. Yet somehow, despite the wounds, despite the emptiness, despite feeling completely alone, you keep smiling because you've learned that not every battle is meant to be seen. A smile is a strange thing. People trust it without asking questions. They see your face, they see your teeth, they hear your laugh, and they decide your life must be perfect. No one stops to wonder how much pain it takes to smile when your heart feels like it's carrying the weight of 1,000 broken promises. The world has trained itself to believe appearances more than reality. If you look confident, they assume you're fearless. If you laugh, they assume you're happy. If you stay silent, they assume you have nothing to say. They never imagine that silence can scream louder than words. Some people don't hide their pain because they're strong. They hide. They hide it because they discovered that nobody really wants to hear the truth. The moment you open your heart, someone calls you weak. The moment you admit you're struggling, someone tells you others have it worse. So you stop talking, you stop explaining, you learn to smile instead. Not because you're healing, but because pretending hurts less than being misunderstood. It's funny how people celebrate the version of you that costs you the most. They admire your positivity without knowing it was built on sleepless nights. They compliment your calmness without realizing you've already survived storms they couldn't imagine. They call you inspiring because they never witnessed the moments when you sat alone, questioning your own worth, wondering whether anyone would notice if you simply disappeared from the room. They only see the performance. They applaud the mask. They never pay attention to the face underneath. Pain changes people in quiet ways. It teaches you to think before you trust. It teaches you to laugh at things that should have made you cry years ago. It teaches you that expectations are expensive and hope can become dangerous when it's placed in the wrong hands. Every disappointment leaves another invisible crack, and after enough cracks, you become an expert at pretending you're still whole. There comes a point where smiling becomes automatic. You walk into a room and your face knows exactly what to do. You greet people. You joke with them. You make them comfortable. You become the person everyone enjoys being around. Then you return home, close the door behind you, and the silence suddenly feels heavier than the crowd ever did. That's the part nobody witnesses. That's the chapter people never read. They're too busy believing the cover. The hardest battles rarely leave bruises anyone can photograph. They're fought inside your mind, where every memory returns uninvited. where every betrayal repeats itself like a broken record, where every harsh word echoes long after the person who spoke it has moved on. You carry conversations that ended years ago. You replay moments you wish had never happened. You argue with ghosts that nobody else can see. Eventually, you realize the smile isn't for you anymore. It's for everyone else. It's a signal that says, "Don't worry about me." It's a shield that keeps uncomfortable questions away. It's easier to wear a fake smile than explain wounds that words could never fully describe. Most people aren't looking for honesty anyway. They're looking for comfort, and your smile gives them exactly that. The strange part is that the people who hide their pain the best often become the ones who understand others the most. They recognize sadness hidden inside ordinary conversations. They notice forced laughter because they've mastered it themselves. They can see exhaustion behind bright eyes because they know exactly what it feels like to wake up emotionally tired before the day even begins. Their kindness isn't an accident. It's born from suffering they never asked for. After enough heartbreak, something inside you changes forever. You stop expecting people to understand. You stop waiting for someone to notice the cracks beneath your smile. You begin carrying your pain like it's another piece of clothing, always there, invisible to everyone else, growing so familiar that even you forget what it felt like to live without its weight. The smile remains, convincing everyone around you that nothing is wrong, while the truth quietly hides behind it, untouched, unheard, and unseen. Loneliness is one of the few things that never needs an invitation. It walks beside you in crowded streets, sits next to you during celebrations, and follows you home when everyone else has someone waiting for them. People think being alone creates loneliness, but that's the biggest illusion of all. You can stand in the middle of 100 smiling faces and still feel like you're invisible. You can receive messages, hear compliments, and be surrounded by laughter, yet carry a silence inside that no one else can hear. The cruelest part isn't that people leave. It's that they slowly stop noticing you were ever there. One day your phone stops ringing. The conversations become shorter. The promises fade into excuses. The people who once said, "I'm always here for you," suddenly become too busy to answer. You don't complain. You don't chase them. You simply watch as your place in their lives becomes smaller and smaller until it disappears completely. Strange, isn't it? How someone can make you feel unforgettable one day and completely replaceable the next. So you learn to become your own audience. You laugh at your own jokes. You celebrate your own victories. You wipe your own tears before anyone has the chance to ask why they appeared. You convince yourself that independence is freedom, even when deep inside, you know it was never a choice. Sometimes strength is just loneliness, wearing a confident face. People admire those who never ask for help. They call them emotionally strong, mentally tough, impossible to break. What they don't realize is that Some people stopped asking because every previous attempt was answered with silence, judgment, or disappointment. After enough unanswered cries, the heart stops expecting rescue. It simply learns how to survive underwater. There are nights when the room feels much bigger than it really is. The walls seem farther away. The ticking of the clock grows louder. Every memory becomes impossible to ignore. That's when loneliness speaks the clearest. It reminds you of every person who walked away, every conversation that ended too soon, every dream that fell apart because the people you trusted disappeared when life became difficult. It has a way of collecting every unfinished chapter and placing it directly in front of your eyes. The strange thing about loneliness is that it changes how you see people. You stop believing words so easily because you've heard beautiful promises dissolve into empty air. You become careful with trust because you've watched loyalty disappear the moment it became inconvenient. You begin expecting disappointment before hope because experience has taught you that expectations often hurt more than reality itself. Eventually, you become skilled at pretending. You master the art of saying, "I'm fine," with a convincing smile. You learn exactly how much emotion to show, so no one becomes uncomfortable. You keep conversations focused on everyone else, because discussing your own life feels pointless. After all, people usually listen just long enough to prepare their own response, not long enough to understand your pain. The lonely heart becomes an expert observer. It notices who checks on others only when it's convenient. It notices fake concern hidden behind polite words. It notices how quickly people celebrate success but disappear during struggle. Pain sharpens your vision. It teaches you that not everyone who stands beside you intends to stay there. Ironically, the people carrying the deepest loneliness often become the ones who offer the most comfort. They know what it feels like to wait for a message that never arrives. They understand the weight of silence after asking for support. They recognize sadness hidden behind laughter because they've hidden behind the same disguise countless times themselves. Their kindness comes from knowing exactly how painful it is to feel forgotten. After living with loneliness long enough, it no longer feels like a visitor. It becomes familiar, almost comfortable. You stop fearing empty rooms because you've spent years filling them with your own thoughts. You stop expecting someone to rescue you because you've learned that survival often depends on no one but yourself. The silence becomes part of your identity. The emptiness becomes routine. And somewhere behind the smile, everyone admires. There's still a quiet place where no one has ever truly arrived. Every morning begins the same way. Before you even step outside, before you speak a single word, before anyone sees your face, you put on something far heavier than clothes. A mask. Not the kind made of plastic or paint, but the one built from fake confidence, controlled emotions, and carefully rehearsed smiles. It's the only thing standing between your real self and a world that judges weakness faster than it understands pain. People don't ask who you truly are. They ask who you're pretending to be today. They reward confidence, even if it's fake. They applaud happiness, even if it's forced. They admire strength, even when it's held together by nothing more than exhaustion. Somewhere along the way, honesty became dangerous. Showing your scars became a mistake. So, you learned to hide them beneath expressions that made everyone else comfortable. The strange part is how quickly people believe what they want to see. Smile once, and they assume you're happy. Laugh at the right moment, and they think life is treating you well. Stay calm during chaos, and they call you fearless. They never stop to ask what it costs to maintain that performance. They never wonder how much energy it takes to keep the cracks from showing. The mask doesn't appear overnight. It's built piece by piece. One disappointment adds another layer. One betrayal strengthens it. Every broken promise teaches you to reveal a little less of yourself. Every moment someone uses your honesty against you, convinces you that hiding is safer than explaining. Before long, the mask becomes so convincing that even the people closest to you stop recognizing the person underneath. There are moments when you forget what your real face even looks like. You become so used to pleasing everyone, protecting everyone, comforting everyone, that you lose sight of your own emotions. You know exactly how to make others laugh, but you can't remember the last time your own laughter came without effort. You know how to encourage others to keep going, even while you're secretly wondering how much longer you can keep pretending. Everything is okay. The world has a strange sense of humor. It teaches people to hide their emotions, then criticizes them for being emotionally distant. It rewards those who suffer in silence, then acts surprised when they suddenly break. It praises those who never complain without realizing they've simply stopped believing anyone would listen. Sometimes the greatest performance isn't standing on a stage. It's surviving another ordinary day without letting anyone see what's happening inside your mind. Behind every carefully controlled expression is a conversation that never happened. Words you swallowed because they would have been misunderstood. Tears you refused to shed because someone would have called you weak. Anger you buried because peace seemed easier than another argument. Every hidden emotion becomes another brick in the wall, separating you from the rest of the world. Eventually, wearing the mask becomes automatic. You no longer think about it. Your smile appears on command. Your voice remains steady, even when your thoughts are falling apart. You answer every question with, "I'm fine," because it's easier than explaining emotions that don't fit into simple conversations. People nod, satisfied with the answer they expected, and continue with their lives while you carry yours in silence. The heaviest masks are often worn by the kindest people. They know what rejection feels like, so they accept everyone. They know what loneliness sounds like, so they become good listeners. They know the weight of invisible pain, so they do everything they can to make sure others never carry it alone. Their compassion isn't weakness. It's the result of surviving battles nobody ever noticed. Sometimes you stand in front of a mirror and wonder which version is real, the one everyone admires, or the one only you know exists, the confident face that earns respect, or the exhausted soul that silently questions everything. The mask has been worn for so long that removing it feels more frightening than keeping it on. The world has grown comfortable with the illusion, and perhaps the most dangerous illusion of all is believing that if you keep smiling long enough, even you might forget the pain hiding beneath it. Pain has a strange way of introducing itself. At first, it feels like an enemy determined to destroy everything you once believed about yourself. It steals your peace, breaks your confidence, and leaves behind questions that never seem to have answers. You wonder why life keeps choosing you for battles you never volunteered to fight. You search for fairness in a world that never promised it. Then one day, without even realizing it, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" The strongest people are rarely born strong. They become strong because life refused to be gentle with them. Every betrayal became another lesson. Every failure became another scar. Every disappointment carved away the parts of them that depended on approval, comfort, or easy victories. Strength is not built in moments of happiness. It is forged in the quiet hours, when no one is watching, when giving up feels easier than taking one more step. Yet somehow you keep moving. People admire confidence, but they never admire the suffering that created it. They see someone standing tall and assume success came naturally. They never imagine the nights spent doubting every decision, questioning every dream, and fighting thoughts that whispered surrender. They applaud the result while ignoring the process. The applause is loud, but the pain that built it was always silent. Every wound changes you. Some wounds make you cautious. Others make you fearless. When you've already lost what mattered most, the fear of losing begins to disappear. Suddenly, risks don't seem so frightening. Opinions lose their power. Rejection no longer feels like the end of the world because you've survived things far worse than someone else's judgment. Pain slowly removes the chains that fear once wrapped around your mind. There comes a moment when suffering stops controlling you. It still exists, but it no longer owns you. Instead of carrying it like a burden, you begin carrying it like a reminder. A reminder that you survived days you once believed would destroy you. A reminder that every scar represents a battle you refuse to lose. The pain remains, but so does the proof that you are still standing. The world often mistakes kindness for weakness until kindness is backed by experience. Someone who has suffered deeply understands people differently. They recognize silent struggles hidden behind ordinary conversations. They know that the loudest smile can hide the deepest sorrow. Their compassion isn't born from comfort. It grows from surviving darkness without allowing that darkness to define who they become. There is an unusual freedom that comes after enough heartbreak. You stop trying to impress everyone because you've learned that approval is temporary. You stop chasing perfection because you've realized perfection never protected anyone from pain. You begin focusing on becoming unbreakable instead of becoming accepted. The opinions of strangers lose value when you've already survived your own worst thoughts. Every difficult chapter leaves behind something valuable, even if it doesn't feel that way at first. Patience grows where anger once lived. Wisdom replaces blind trust. Courage appears in places once occupied by fear. You become more careful with your energy, more selective with your relationships, and more aware of the difference between people who genuinely care and those who simply enjoy your presence when life is easy. The greatest transformation isn't becoming someone who never feels pain. It's becoming someone who refuses to let pain decide the future. Your scars no longer become excuses. They become evidence that you endured what many people never even saw. Every setback becomes another reason to keep moving forward instead of another reason to quit. The same experiences that once threatened to destroy your spirit slowly become the foundation beneath your feet. Eventually, you realize pain was never asking for permission to stay forever. It was demanding that you become someone different, harder to deceive, wiser with trust, stronger under pressure, more comfortable standing alone than standing beside people who only value the version of you that never struggles. The fire that once felt like punishment begins shaping something inside you that no betrayal, no failure, and no lonely night can ever completely break. There are battles that leave bruises everyone can see, and then there are battles that leave nothing on the outside while destroying everything within. The second kind is always the hardest, because the world only believes what it can witness. If there are no broken bones, no visible scars, no tears falling in public, people assume you're perfectly fine. They don't realize that the loudest wars are often fought in complete silence, inside a mind that never gets the chance to rest. Every day becomes another performance. You wake up, look into the mirror, straighten your face, and convince yourself that no one needs to know what happened inside your head the night before. The thoughts stay hidden. The fears remain locked away. You step outside, carrying conversations no one else can hear. The world greets you with ordinary smiles while you're already exhausted from surviving a battle that started long before sunrise. The mind has a dangerous habit of remembering what the heart desperately wants to forget. Every betrayal returns without warning. Every failure repeats itself in painful detail. Every cruel word spoken years ago still echoes as though it happened yesterday. You try to move forward, but your own thoughts keep pulling you backward, reminding you of every moment you weren't enough, every promise that was broken, every dream that slipped through your hands. People often ask why someone changes. They never ask what happened before the change. They notice the silence, but ignore the years of being unheard. They notice the distance, but never question the betrayals that created it. They call someone cold without realizing that warmth disappeared after being burned too many times. No one wakes up wanting to trust less, smile less, or feel less. Life slowly teaches those lessons, one disappointment at a time. There are moments when your own mind becomes the place you fear the most. During the day, noise keeps the thoughts away. Conversations, responsibilities, and routines create distractions. But when the night arrives and everything becomes quiet, the real battle begins. Every unanswered question returns. Every regret asks for attention. Every doubt grows louder because there is nothing left to silence it, except your own exhausted heart. Yet somehow, the next morning arrives, and so do you. You put on the same calm expression. You greet people with the same polite smile. You make jokes, complete your responsibilities, and continue moving, as though nothing inside you is falling apart. People call it resilience because they never see the cost. They admire your consistency without understanding that every ordinary day requires extraordinary effort. The strongest victories are rarely celebrated because nobody knows they happened. Choosing to get out of bed when your mind begs you to stay hidden is a victory. Choosing kindness after experiencing cruelty is a victory. Choosing to keep believing that tomorrow can be different after countless disappointments is a victory. These moments never receive applause, yet they demand more courage than many achievements the world openly celebrates. The strange thing about invisible battles is that they quietly reshape who you become. They teach patience because healing cannot be rushed. They teach awareness because pain allows you to recognize suffering in others. They teach discipline because survival often depends on refusing to surrender, even when motivation has completely disappeared. Every silent struggle adds another layer of strength that cannot be measured by appearances. Eventually, you stop fighting for people to understand what you're carrying. You realize that not everyone is meant to witness every chapter of your story. Some will only see the smile. Some will only know the version of you that laughs. Others will never imagine the storms hidden behind your calm eyes. That's the nature of invisible battles. They don't ask for recognition. They simply demand endurance, day after day, while the world continues believing that your smile tells the whole story, even as your strongest fight remains hidden, where no one else can ever truly see it.